Hi, I'm Jonathan Weinberg. Today I want to do just a quick review, which I think will be helpful to people because I was having an issue with my journal and ink bleeding, and I did a lot of research, and it took me a while just to find the most obvious information, which is the best journal to use where for fountain pens where the ink doesn't go through the paper. For at least a year, I've been using these Rhodia journals, which I really like because I love the colors that they come in. These bright colors, it's like green and orange, and when I change journals, then I can see the different separation. I like the way they look on the bookcase. And Rhodia is sort of one of the papers that everybody goes to when they're testing their inks. So I thought, oh, well, this is going to be fine. And then, however, I suddenly realized when I started to use some of the colors, inks that I use in pens, that the ink was bleeding through, particularly with the Falcon pen, which is a flexible, semi-flex pen, and with Falcon ink, the Chicorin ink. You can see it here in the light green. It comes right through the paper. I also was seeing it coming right through with my Pilot X Custom 823 with Asagawa blue ink, which is a very popular ink. Both these inks are very popular. The only pens that were working fine were with very standard ink, let's say Safari with blue cartridge, or here's a Kawiko Brass Sport with the blue cartridge. When I use the Fountain Pen Revolution Ultra Flex nib with Waterman Intense Black, it goes right through the paper again, really, really strongly. So here you're seeing these, these are not obscure inks that I'm using, and I'm using pretty standard pens that are writing with a fairly wet line. I will give you that. So I said to myself, I got to find something else. Here you can see it here again with this green ink. I noticed that particularly green inks seem to go right through the paper. So what should I do? Now there are lots of reviews online and people seem to spend forever doing all kinds of ink reviews and paper reviews and colors. All I want is paper, a nice journal that I can write through where the ink isn't going to go through the paper. And I happen to be using, for another project, I was writing I wanted something that would be sort of like the size of a short story. And I picked up one of these traveler's notebooks. And guess what? There's no bleed through at all. I mean, they're incredible. The paper doesn't bleed through at all. But the traveler notebooks don't come in a hardcover journal, which is what I need in order to do my everyday. I write maybe 4 pages in the morning, right? So this is great for if you want to do one of those traveler leather bind things that people, that people love, but that I don't find. I mean, I think that would be fine for keeping the journal, but I don't like the idea of having all these little notebooks to keep my journal in for over time, because I go through a journal like every 2 months, and so I would be going through these every week, and I just don't think that would be a good solution. And also, I already have all of these journals, right, that are this size. So I did some research, and I found out that the Traveler Company uses a Japanese paper, this MD Midori paper, and that they make journals that people love and speak very highly of. So I ordered one of these, and they do come in these very beautiful, I think these are very beautiful books. They're not, unfortunately, hardcover. And they also, I guess, for keeping like a little journal every day, they have this line in the middle, which I can live with. I like these books, actually, and I consider using them for the journal, but it's not ideal. But anyway, the point is that I tried out all these different inks, and there is no bleed through. It's like magic. It's also, I think, really beautiful paper. Very, very nice. So this is a possibility. I definitely, and also I have to say, these are very affordable. On Amazon, they're around $10. And in this size, so that's very good. The other thing is they lay flat, really flat, which is just wonderful. And they're very elegant. The thing here, the other problem for me is that they would be, all the journals would be the same, which would look very nice on the bookshelf. They're not hard. They have they're really paperback with this nice acetate on the outside, or I don't know if that's not what you call acetate, but it's this glassine, paper. So I think these are very, very nice possible solution, and I certainly am going to use this journal. I think has a kind of pen journal. That's what this is going to be. But then I saw online that a lot of people are using the Endless journal, which is relatively new, and I think you can see emulates very much the Rhodia journal. These are very, very similar. I prefer the covers to the Rhodia. I feel like the surface is kind of leather-like feel to it, and also I love the colors that the Rhodia comes in. So I must say that is my ideal. I really like this, but it's very close. This is a little more, has a sort of little more bumpy kind of. I think it's trying to emulate a more kind of leather-like effect here, and not quite as shiny. And it doesn't come in as interesting colors. It comes in like dark blue and burgundy, I think, and green. So this is Endless, and they have their own paper, which is the Regalia paper. And they claim that this journal is the most fountain pen friendly journal that you can buy. And here, the other thing not wild about, but in this case it worked well for me, is that it's just lined like the Rhodia journal, but in the front it has this little table of contents, which I guess could be helpful for people. But in this case, they decided to use the table of contents as for the place for the pen test. And here I'm testing all the same pen colors that I tried in the Rhodia. And look, nothing is bleeding through, with the exception of the fountain pen Revolution pen, which is extremely wet and has the flex nib. And when I'm really trying to flex with the nib a little bit, and it's pointy and sharp, the ink does go through a tiny little bit. But to tell you the truth, rarely would I use this pen to write with. This is a pen I use really to draw with. I don't use it to journal with. And in general, I like to journal with either a medium or a broad pen, but often I will draw with a fine or ultra fine pen. So it's different. Now, in order for the paper, this Regalia paper, I think, to do its magic thing, it has a kind of almost polished quality to the surface. And I think that's very nice also for shading. So you can see that when you use the green or the blue, I don't know if you can see it, but there is a lot more shading, I think, than you get in the Rhodia paper. And that's because the ink is not being quite absorbed as much. And also, you have to keep in mind then that the ink doesn't dry quite as quickly. And that could be a problem, for example, for left-hand people who are using this, that the ink doesn't dry. It seems to me doesn't dry quite as quickly as it does on the Rhodia paper. But this paper seems very similar to the MD Midori paper, the Japanese paper. They have similar characteristics. There's a little more buckling, I think, to the paper than I find with the Rhodia paper. So the solution, there are two possible solutions for people. One is to switch to the Endless journal, which is, I think, what I'm going to do. Although I still have another extra Rhodia journal, which I'll probably use. The other solution, I suppose, is to use pens and ink that don't bleed through. And I think what you can see in all these cases that the Kaweco standard cartridge ink doesn't bleed through any of these papers. And I think that would be true let's say, blue and black. I don't think it's true, though, of, let's say, like, say, a Pilot green cartridge may come through. I noticed that green colors, in general, seem to bleed through much more than black and blue do. I don't know why that is, but probably somebody out there does. Okay, so the point is that the Endless Journal really does seem to be friendly for fountain pen ink. I will say one thing, which is the Midori MD journal didn't even show through when I used the fountain pen Revolution. So it did the best of all of them, but that doesn't have the nice cover. So if MD starts making a journal like this, I would definitely use it. Or if somebody knows of a journal like this that uses the MD paper, let me know. I hope this is useful. Please subscribe if you find it useful and you like it. That's a great way to support my channel. Thanks.